Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Got to start with the bad when it comes to this past football weekend. Cardinals lose 16-6 on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. And they open the door. In fact, they might have taken the door off the hinges. That's how much they've invited everybody back into the NFC West. Yesterday, the 49ers got blown out by the Green Bay Packers, team that's not going in the right direction. Didn't have their quarterback yesterday. Wheels completely fell off for them in Green Bay. The Rams on Sunday Night Football with the Eagles, Saquon Barkley ran all over them. They lost. Exactly the scenario that we outlined on Friday opened itself up for the Cardinals. They beat Seattle. They would have had a 2-game cushion in the NFC West with a 3-0 start in the division. Instead, we come in here on a Monday. Those losses by the 49ers and Rams don't really matter all that much. It is still a 1-game lead for now the Seattle Seahawks in this division. And the Cardinals have now fallen to second place because of the current tiebreaker situation, because Seattle has beaten them. And now the Cardinals have to go to Minnesota next week, and then they're going to have the rematch against Seattle, which is going to be vitally important because dropping both to Seattle will put them way behind the 8 ball. It went from being what could have been an absolutely perfect weekend for the football teams here in town to it is a disaster for the Arizona Cardinals. Set up perfectly. It's set up exactly the way you wanted it to go. 49ers lost. Rams lost on Sunday night. You obviously didn't know that when you played, but it was the perfect weekend outside of Seattle, Washington. And the Arizona Cardinals went up there, and they looked like a team that had their bye week last week. They looked like a team that wasn't prepared, and the game was right there in front of them. Because despite the slow start for the offense, and really the offense never got going in that game, but despite the slow start for the offense, the defense did its job. The defense kept them in the game. If I would have said on Friday that the Cardinals were going to hold the Seahawks to 16 points defensively, you would feel really good about the chances for the Cardinals to win. And no, I'm not sour because it was our 1-point play for the Schubert 6. That's part of it, but it's not the entire part of it. This team lost a winnable football game on Sunday that would have set them in pole position. They would have been in the driver's seat with full control of where this road was going to take us. They were in charge of the journey. They were going to be able to dictate when we were going to take the rest stop, when we were going to get off the highway. They were the one programming the GPS. They could have been in full control of the NFC West today. They're not. They are no longer in control of this division because of what happened yesterday. And an offense that, for the first time in what feels like a month, looked like the offense that started the season. They looked like a team that was off for a week, looked like a group that didn't maybe necessarily take the bye week as seriously as they should have, but the game was right there for them in the first half. It was right there. Because despite all of that, they had a 3-0 lead. They were holding Geno Smith and this offense down. They scored only 1 touchdown, Seattle did. 1. That's it. You got a huge red zone turnover by Geno Smith, and yet you couldn't put more than 6 points on the board. You couldn't go up into Seattle and be the more prepared team. You couldn't go up into Seattle and win a football game to put you in the driver's seat of the division. Couldn't do it. Couldn't get it done. Couldn't beat a Seattle team that lost in that same building to the Giants a few weeks ago. The same Giants team that just benched their quarterback, cut him, and then lost 30-7 at home to the Bucs. That's the team you couldn't beat on the road. That's the team that you couldn't have extra time to prepare for. A division rival, so a team you know intimately well. You couldn't go up there and beat that team with everything on the line. The easiest schedule in the division the rest of the way. The remaining strength of schedule for the Arizona Cardinals is a 463. It is the best schedule to have out of any of the 4 teams in the NFC West. It is the 22nd hardest schedule in the league the remainder of the season. So that's everybody's remaining games. The Cardinals, the 22nd easiest schedule, or 22nd hardest schedule, 8th or 9th easiest schedule the rest of the way. That's what the Cardinals have in front of them. And yesterday was a missed opportunity. Yesterday was Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals doing what they have done the previous 5 times against Seattle. And that is coming up short. That is an offense that couldn't get anything going. Kyler Murray running for his life. Trey McBride really the only person of this offense. It is the first blemish to our statistic here on this show because Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. were the top 2 guys on this offense in targets, and for the first time this season, the Cardinals lost a football game in which that is the case because they could only muster 6 points. So I get it if you're frustrated today. I get it if you feel like that door is opening and this is the wheels starting to fall off. That was a winnable game yesterday. You didn't play your best, and you still had a chance to win that football game into the second half, late into the fourth quarter, and yet you couldn't find a way. Kyler Murray probably played the worst game he's played this season, and he's been great. That's the worst game he's played this season. That interception is the worst throw he's made this season. I don't know if he got scared that somebody had the speed to meet him out there on the outside, because you very rarely see that. You very rarely see any defender at any level be able to keep up with Kyler Murray's speed. I believe it was Devon Witherspoon who was able to get out there in space and meet Kyler Murray. That forced him to have to try to throw the ball and loft it. And boy, did he loft it right over, I believe it was Michael Wilson's head, and it was a pick 6. That's the difference in the game. You can't have plays like that. You can't go up to Seattle and give them those type of momentum-building plays. You can't do it. And that's what the Cardinals did yesterday. So Kyler Murray plays the worst game that he's played this season. He has his worst throw of the season. And this game is 7-3 in the third quarter when he throws that pick 6. It's 7-3. You play one of the worst halves of football you've played in a really long time. Like a really long time. You have to go back, and I did the work this morning. Some of the numbers from this game, you have to go back to the beginning of October to find a match to how poorly this team played. Despite all of that on the road in the rain. Refs maybe not doing you any favors. Some of the calls, not great yesterday. But I am not going to be the guy that comes onto the airwaves and complains about the officials when the team played as poorly as they did offensively. You go into the locker room at halftime, on the road, playing as poorly as you played, down 7-3. That's it. You're down 7-3. And this offense, with this talent, with this coach who last week we talked about was going to be getting head coaching interviews. This group that was so highly spoken of for the last month, one of the best offensive units in all of football, they couldn't crack the code on the Seattle Seahawks defense yesterday. They couldn't do it. And the pick 6 changed the game. Because then it was 13-3, and the Cardinals were never going to be able to recover from that. And so we now are in the timeline where the Cardinals have work to do. They have to show us the resiliency. They have to show us the same resiliency that saw a 2-4 team get to this place. They have to show us that team that was able to turn things from 2-4 to 6-4 to play as meaningful of a game as they did yesterday. They have to show us that same resiliency now, because the noise is louder, the pressure is magnified, the playoffs are closer. You could have had a control on this division. You don't now. You've got to go do the work. You have to go out there and respond. And oh, by the way, you have the Minnesota Vikings next up on your schedule, who just continue to win. Found a way to get out of Dodge yesterday against the Chicago Bears. So that's what the Cardinals did to you all yesterday. That's what they did to all of us. They opened the door for this to now be a stressful finish, even though we probably thought it was going to be. But they had the perfect set of outcomes on Sunday, except the one that they had control over.